Entonces nos vamos a conectar al YouTube. Y primero Jessica da la introducción y después Mauricio. Y ahí está.
Ahí ya lo estoy viendo.
Sí.
Bárbaro.
Al otro cambiamos el YouTube. Tenemos ahora uno que está asociado a la cuenta de Gmail del grupo, porque el otro era muy, o sea, era como muy feo. No se podía ni siquiera cambiar el nombre, nada. Pero sigo usando el Zoom de la universidad.
Está bien.
María.
Jocelyn, vamos a alargar la pregunta de los participantes, de los países.
No las he puesto, se me olvidó. A ver. Tú puedes aquí, votación. Ah, sí, sí se puede. Sí. Las mismas preguntas de la otra vez. Sí. Tengo de qué país y después la segunda es ¿qué otra temática relacionada con arsénico le gustaría conocer? Eso. Se pueden hacer en cualquier minuto de la charla. No sé. Eso.
Voy a escribir.
Ah, ya. Estaremos a punto de empezar. Ahí está Anne.
Ah, qué bien.
Hello.
Hola, Jessica.
Hola.
Tengo solamente una hora hoy, pero estoy feliz de estar aquí con ustedes.
Gracias.
Bueno, gracias, Anne.
Jessica, tú no estuviste en Bolivia, ¿no?
No, solamente conozco el límite entre Jujuy, ahí Argentina y Bolivia. Está la Quiaca y solo eso, nada, casi nada, prácticamente.
Son las 11. Ya, empecemos.
Bueno.
¿Está bien? Sí.
Empecemos. Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you very much for being here today for the third webinar organized by the IGCP 707, Origin, Distribution and Biogeochemistry of Arsenic in the Altiplano Puna Plateau of South America. This project is part of the International Geoscience Program of UNESCO that supports research dealing with global issues with international scientific cooperation. The leaders of this project are Jocelyn Tapia from Universidad Católica del Norte, Antofagasta, Chile, Mauricio Ormachea and Noemí Tirado from Universidad Mayor de San Andrés in La Paz, Bolivia, Kirk Nordstrom from the USGS, Boulder, Colorado, and me from CONICET, Universidad Nacional de Salta, Argentina. In the context of this atypical year, in which most of the meetings, field trips, congresses, etc., have been canceled, we hope that this webinar series can help on the topic of our concern, which is arsenic in the environment, and that we can provide an opportunity to continue learning, discussing, contacting new people, and engaging the youngest generations. So we will continue with this webinar series until December. The next webinar will be held on 16 October, and the speaker will be Noemí Tirado with a talk about arsenic exposure, elimination metabolism, and genotoxicity among women in Bolivia. But now I'm going to introduce our speaker today. He is Mauricio Ormachea Muñoz. Mauricio, since 2001, Mauricio is a research scientist at the Chemical Research Institute of Universidad Mayor de San Andrés in La Paz, Bolivia. He has a bachelor and a licentiate in chemical science from the Natural Science Faculty at Universidad Mayor de San Andrés. He also has a PhD in Land and Water Resources Engineering from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden. His research is focused on the geochemistry of arsenic, fluoride, mercury, and other potential harmful trace elements of natural and anthropogenic origins. He also assesses water quality for consumption, irrigation, and industry, and applies geochemical modeling for characterization and remediation of contaminated sites. Mauricio obtained funds for research from different international institutions, such as the Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo, the Institut de Recherche et Développement from France, the Swedish International Development Agency, the Leading House from Switzerland, and other local funds. He has participated in different international conferences, especially the International Conference on Arsenic in the Environment, and with more than 40 publications, he's the best scored geochemist of Universidad Mayor de San Andrés in Bolivia. So we are very happy, Mauricio, of having your presentation today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that presentation. And I also thank all the attendants to this webinar. And I will present this investigation carried out in the central Bolivian Altiplano. And this work is part of my PhD thesis. And so the title of my presentation is Hydrogeochemistry of Geogenic Arsenic in Poopó Lake Basin, Central Bolivian Altiplano. Okay. Okay. So, what is the background here first I want to show where is Bolivia located. As you may know, Bolivia is in the central part of South America, and Bolivia is a wide country, and to the east is the Amazon area, and to the west is the mountains and the Bolivian Altiplano area. So it is the Bolivian Altiplano is a typical region which is at very high altitude, around 4,000 meters above sea level, and it is comprised by the TDPS system. TDPS hydrologic system is Titicaca Lake, the Desaguadero River, which connects with Poopó Lake, and then there are the salt flats, which Uyuni is the most known place of this area. This small square here is the Poopó Lake basin, and the Poopó Lake basin is the specific area of these studies. In this area, we have several problems related to mining. Most of the mining is located at the northern part of the Poopó Lake basin. And of course, this kind of activity pollute the water resources. But in some other areas, there are no mining activities. So we have this kind of plantation. This is quinoa plantation, which is located to the south of the area. And we also have some other pristine areas where no activities are carried out. So we have only national parks and some protected areas in the central Bolivian Altiplano. The area is very, very flat, and the villages are dispersed all around this wide area. What we have done before this investigation related to arsenic, Ramos et al. In 2012 published an article related to arsenic concentrations in the entire Poopó Lake basin. So I am also a co-author of this publication, and me also published 2015 arsenic concentrations in thermal springs. So what we found here in 2012, we published this map. You can see here the small circles represent arsenic concentration below 10 micrograms per liter. This concentration is present in drinking water wells. So this big circle represents more than 200 micrograms per liter of arsenic. So if you can see here, there are a heterogeneous distribution of arsenic in drinking water wells. Of all these circles represents the size of the circles represents the concentration of arsenic in the wells. The concentration we found is in the range of 5 to 242 micrograms per liter. And in the speciation, we found that arsenic 5 is predominant than arsenic 3. And calculations made by geochemical modeling, we found that 56% of arsenic 5 is present as this species. So then in this almost 30 drinking water wells, we found that 85% of these drinking water wells exceed the WHO guidelines. These yellow circles represent the thermal springs, and in this area we have around 16 thermal springs, and the temperature range from 40 to 75 degrees, and the pH is circumneutral. Arsenic concentration is from 7 to 65 micrograms per liter. In this thermal spring, arsenic 3 is in some wells. Arsenic 3 is in some hot springs. Arsenic 3 is predominant than arsenic 5, but in some others the concentrations are in equilibrium. So this is what we found in these first investigations. And at the beginning, we think our hypothesis was that probably the thermal water is polluting or contaminating the groundwater used for consumption. But as we can see here, the concentrations are very low compared with the concentration of arsenic in drinking water wells. So next step was to identify why is arsenic present in drinking water wells at high concentrations. And then, as if you remember, I told you that in the northern area of Poopó Lake Basin, there are mining activities. So we decided to study the southern part of the Poopó Lake, because in this area only agricultural activities are carried out. Of course, this area, it seems to be more impacted with natural arsenic than the other areas. So the objectives of this study was to determine the chemical composition of surface and groundwater, and to determine the spatio-temporal distribution and the extent of arsenic and other trace elements in surface and groundwater in the Poopó Lake Basin. Also to identify the major geogenic sources and to determine the principal geochemical processes governing the release and mobilization of arsenic into surface and groundwater in the southern part of the Poopó Lake Basin. Okay, then this is the area, the specific study area. You can see here we have the Poopó Lake, and we have 3 main rivers, and dispersed around this area are many villages with different size. For the field work, we went to the field for water sampling and analysis, and we collect 42 drinking water wells. The depths of these wells were in between 2 and 10 meters, an average of 4 meters depth. And also we collect 7 river samples along these rivers I showed before. We also installed 12 piezometers, which was from 5 to 7 meters deep. And we collect groundwater from these piezometers. And the frequency, we collect the samples during the dry and the wet seasons. For the field parameters, we use a portable multiparameter to determine the pH, alkaline, the electrical conductivity, dissolved oxygen, temperatures, and also we analyze the alkalinity in the field. We took 2 portions of samples. One was for anion analysis using ion chromatography. And the other portion we preserve it with nitric acid, and also we did this arsenic speciation in the field, and we preserve also with chloride acid, and we analyze them in ICP. So in the same map, you can see here that these yellow circles, they are the drinking water wells located in each villages around in this area. And these green circles are the piezometers. We installed this piece. We drill holes and installed tubes to collect groundwater samples in this area. There are different kind of wells in the area. We can see, for example, this picture. These are some open well. People covered it with stones. But also we found this kind of wells where people put some stones to protect the wall, and then they put a tube there and collect the sample. This is another picture showing the people collecting water. This is a communal well. This is in Pampa Uriagas. Usually people go to the central part in the village and collect water for consumption. So there are different types of wells. And also this is the rivers. We have in this river, Marcus, we have 3 samples along the river. And this is another river which is called Cebarullo. In the wet season, the flow is bigger. And then also we have collected geological samples. We took 14 different types of rock and 2 core sediments. In each sediment, we collect 8 samples. For the samples, we made acid digestion and sequential extractions to see how arsenic is associated with different mineral phases. And we analyze using ICP. These red squares, it shows the different rock types in different parts of the study area. And these triangles here, these are the core sediments we collect in very close to this town, which is called Condoca, and this this is very near to Quillacas. Okay, here you can see some pictures about how is the geology of the area. Different types of rocks. These are the materials we used for the drillings, and you can see here the head of this instrument for collect the sediments, and we put the sediments in line. So then we collect when we see that the color change, or when we see also the size of the particle change, we took some samples of this drilling. In this special picture, we drill 7 meters, around 7 meters. Okay, then what have this is the results in groundwater chemistry. The groundwater hydrochemistry. Okay, this is a Piper diagram, and here is drinking water wells in blue and water from piezometers in orange. We put all together because all are groundwater, and they have same behavior. As you can see here, groundwater is tend to go to sodium concentration and to chloride. So it's an evolution from sodium chloride bicarbonate to sodium chloride. This is probably because the area has high evaporation, and the trend is to evolve from this water type to this water type. And as you can see also, the conductivity is very, very high. Much of the people there have concerns about the salinity, but they don't have other option for drinking water. So sometimes it's not easy to find fresh water in this area. And this picture B shows the concentration, the range of concentration of arsenic, which goes from 5 to 600 micrograms per liter. We also have some other trace elements: aluminium, lithium, iron, magnesium, zinc, and strontium. The pH was between 5.5 to 8.7. The average is 8, so it's slightly alkaline, and the potential redox is positive, and it is oxidative environment. This is a Piper diagram and box plot from surface water. This is from the rivers. Only 7 samples we collect on the rivers, but the behavior is similar than that from groundwaters, and the water types is the same. We found that water type evolved from sodium chloride bicarbonate to sodium chloride. Electrical conductivity is also high, and the pH is also slightly alkaline, and positive potential, oxidative potential. In the rivers, upstream and in the middle of the stream, we found also high concentrations of arsenic. Not as much high as the groundwater, but it goes from from 8 to almost 100 micrograms per liter. So we also have aluminum, lithium, iron, and other trace elements. Well, I will show you now a map about arsenic. This is the spatial distribution of arsenic in groundwater and surface water. You can see here the size of the circle represent the concentration. This small circle is less than 10 micrograms per liter, and the bigger one is more than 200 micrograms per liter. And if you remember, the yellow are the drinking water wells, these greens are the piezometers, and these blue are the rivers. So the rivers, for example, you can see here, they are same concentrations along the river with a slight variation along the river. This is Marquez River. This other is Cebarullo River. And we have one in Cortadera River. There are an heterogeneous behavior of the arsenic. We can see, for example, here, this is a small circle, and very close, very near here is a big circle. So that means that in the same area, we can find arsenic concentrations of 10, and in 20 meters far, we can find 200 or 300 micrograms per liter of arsenic. So this distribution is really heterogeneous. And in the piezometers, we have found the same behavior. Some concentrations very low in arsenic, and some other concentrations very high in a small area. So that means that arsenic is not really, it has an heterogeneous distribution on the area. And this is a similar behavior occurs in some other parts of the world, like in Argentina, in Mexico, and also in Bangladesh and other parts. I will tell you later what we found and why is this behavior. So arsenic was we found during the wet season, the concentrations range from 5 to 433 micrograms per liter, and 90% of the drinking water wells exceed the WHO guidelines. Also, we found that arsenic 5 is the predominant species, and geochemical modeling shows that this species is present, is more predominant in this area. Okay, this is arsenic seasonal variation in groundwater. And you can see here that is no really difference in dry or wet season. And this other picture B is the variation also, but in the piezometers. During the dry season, we can see that is a trend that is less arsenic than in wet season. But it's not in all the wells. Here in these piezometers, we found in one of them, we found high arsenic concentration. At the beginning, we thought that this concentration was a mistake, probably in the laboratory or during the sampling. We made a mistake because it's really very, very high concentration compared with the other concentrations. In piezometers, most of them were no more than 500, and in groundwater, no more than 600. But this is 2,500 micrograms per liter. So next campaign during the dry season, in the same piezometer, we found 3,497 micrograms per liter. So this is the highest concentration of arsenic found in groundwater in this piezometer. This is very, very complex because people usually construct these wells in places where they think they can find water, groundwater. So they probably can also find a well which is highly contaminated with arsenic. This is the picture showing the seasonal variation in surface water, and the green is Cebarullo River, the blue is Marquez River, and only one sample in Cortadera River. What we can see here is that in Cebarullo River, there is a natural attenuation from upstream to downstream. And you can see the same behavior during the wet season and during the dry season. And what happens here in Marquez River, it is probably that it's more dominant the groundwater discharge in the river that increase the concentration of arsenic. So from upstream to downstream, there are increasing concentration. The levels of arsenic are in 45 to 65 during the wet season, and from 60 to 80 micrograms per liter during the wet season. And we don't have some behavior here because we only have one sample. This river is a short river, so but at that time it was very difficult to go to this river. Okay. Now, what we found in the sediment. This is a place which is called Condoca. In Condoca, we collect these sediment samples from this core, and we found that, well, the depth of this drilling was 7 meters, and we collect 7 samples when the color changed or the size of the particle changed. We collected the samples, and we found this kind of diagram here. As you can see, the blue is when we apply a deionized water to the sample. The red is bicarbonate, the green is acetate, then oxalate, and the rest is with nitric acid. So it's a sequential extraction with different solvents, and then we found that the extraction mobilize arsenic in different ways. But using deionized water, you can see that arsenic is easily mobile from the sediments. And with pH variation, because these different solvents have different pH from basic to acid, then we can obtain different extracts of concentration of arsenic from different mineral phases in the sediments. Same procedure we apply in another place, which is close to Quillacas. Here we only have 5 meters, and sequential extraction show different behavior. For example, with water, we can see that it's very easy to mobile arsenic from the upper sediment, and also other behaviors with the other solvents. So this is also a question: why arsenic mobilize different ways in different sites? And of course, we related that with the particle size and the different mineral phases present in this sediment. For example, we have a correlation in both holes, in both drillings. We have found a correlation between oxalate and iron. That means that if iron dissolves, also arsenic dissolves. So are related between both. Okay, this is, for example, what happened in this kind of type of rocks types. We collect from different sites in the area, and this kind of rocks, andesitic to lava, to acidic lava, and some others. This is our typical concentration reported in some papers, on some textbooks, and this is the concentration we found in these different type rocks. There are some difference, but not really a big difference from which is reported in the textbooks. In sedimentary rocks, yes, we have some other type of rocks, sandstone, limestones, and quartzite, and this is also the reported concentration in the bibliography, and we found, for example, in limestone, very high concentrations compared with this in biography. Also, we found in sandstone and limestone in these different places. So we found that limestone is potential source of arsenic in this area. Okay, I have now the conclusion of these investigations. We can see that drinking water wells are naturally affected by high concentration of these trace elements, and also they have high salinity, and more than 90% of these water wells are affected by a high concentration of arsenic. We found that volcanic rocks, limestones, and sediments in the surroundings of Poopó Lake are the main sources of arsenic. And we found that the limestone has up to 27 milligrams per kilogram of arsenic, and the sediments, they were from lacustre origin, and they have up to 51 milligrams per kilogram. These are the major sources for groundwater, but there occur some kind of geochemical processes to release the arsenic to the water and to the shallow aquifers. So these mechanisms, these principal mechanisms include this chemical weathering of the carbonates, the silicates, and this incorporate the sodium and the bicarbonate to the water, and this also increase the alkalinity, and also increase the pH, and this favor the high mobility of the arsenic species. We found also the arsenic is associated with iron oxyhydroxide phases, this which absorb and dissolve arsenic, and these also are potential sources of arsenic for groundwater contamination. With these studies, we published these papers, which are in the web. I can send you if you want. I show you the first was from Osvaldo and me, and the second, thermal waters, is also studies made by us. And this last publication is which I show now in this presentation. Okay, I would like to acknowledge the SIDA, Swedish International Development Agency, AECID, which is the Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional, KTH, and my institution, IIQ at UMSA. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mauricio. This has been a super interesting talk. I'm surprised how when I go to the field and sampling in the Puna, I have found similar things that you were describing. So well, I'm happy that I can share with you the knowledge that you have. So we can start with the questions. You can ask questions.
No, first, the polls. We're going to make 2 polls.
Okay.
Okay. There's the first question is, where are you from today? Okay, we have mainly people from Argentina, and in second position, Chile. we imagine it's because we have the Patriot Day in Chile, so most of the people are celebrating today. And thanks, well, I'm going to leave it for 15 more seconds and to start the second question. We have 2 questions in the chat. Maybe while people are voting, you can answer the questions.
Yes, the first question was by Enio Hernandez from Chile. He's asking near wells showing really different arsenic concentrations. Were sampled at the same depth?
Okay, most of the wells were at shallow wells, not more than 8 meters. Average is 3 meters. So sometimes it's not easy to access the water level, but we try to collect water from 1 meter below the water surface in groundwater, and the concentration, yes, it is very different in some cases. In if we have, for example, one well in which arsenic is very low, and 20 meters far from this well, we found another well which arsenic concentration is very high, and this behavior is in all the area. And we found that probably this is because of the sediments. They have if you remember, there are 3 main rivers, and the rivers, in the way they go downstream, they distribute the sediments in different ways, and the sizes of and the mineralogical composition of these sediments are different, but they distribute in the lower land. So when people drill the wells or excavate the wells, they found different particle size which deliver this arsenic concentration. That's why the difference in arsenic concentration in the different wells.
For the results, well, most people from Argentina, and the issue they like to study more in depth in these lectures is arsenic removal from water. That's and we have good news. And also we have good a lot of people that want to know about health. In October, we're going to have a speech from Noemi Tirado. She's going to talk about health. And in November, Jessica is going to talk about Laguna de los Pozuelos in Argentina. And in December, Ramiro Escalera is going to talk about arsenic removal. So we have good news.
Yeah, yeah. We are trying to cover all the different aspects of arsenic. So yes, we hope we can we'll bring these kind of talks to the audience. We have another question from Anne Mays from the US. Thank you for a great presentation. Are there any reliable but inexpensive methods for removing arsenic from drinking water that could be applied in this area?
Yes, actually, at the end of the last year, we installed a small treatment plant there in Quillacas, and we use a combined technology with radiation, because at high altitude UV radiation is very high, and this is used for oxidize arsenic and also to precipitate iron from the water, and this iron precipitates absorb arsenic, and then it passes also through a iron filter, which is also absorbing arsenic in this treatment plant. And yes, Ramiro Escalera in December will explain more about this treatment plant and the technical characteristics and the characterization of this this system.
Okay, next questions. Caroline de Meyer. Thank you, Mauricio, for the nice presentation. Do you have any idea about the deeper groundwater quality?
Okay, it's good to hear that Caroline is attending this presentation. I met her also this last year. And yes, Caroline, in this area, we found only one well that is from around 40 to 50 meters. I don't remember well. But arsenic is in this well is also very high, around 100 micrograms per liter. And the difference is that arsenic in this well is present as arsenic 3. That means that in deeper aquifers, arsenic is in reduced form. Of course, the system is in reduced state, but it's the same kind of quality. This is a high salinity, high arsenic, and they use this water for quinoa fields, for irrigation the quinoa fields, not for consumption, but it's practical the same quality of water.
Okay, another question from Brandon Schneider. Thanks, Mauricio, great presentation. Do you correlate the high arsenic river sample locations with nearby different geological outcrops? For example, the high arsenic sample in the upstream portion of Cervaran River was near a certain outcrop or potential source of arsenic? And why is that river trend different from the other rivers that show higher arsenic downstream?
Yes, the longest river is called Marquez River, and upstream there are a field of volcanic rocks, this kind of ignimbrites type of rocks, and we find that ignimbrites, well, this kind of volcanic rocks has very low concentration of arsenic, but at the same time, these kind of rocks are very what's the name? Very fragile, so they can weather very easily. They break down very easily. So because arsenic is very low compared with other rock types, but there are huge amounts of these kind of rocks, they can mobilize arsenic very easily. So since we see that upstreams we have found high concentration of arsenic, we know that arsenic is present from the upstream in the mountains. Water is mobilizing arsenic, and of course, river waters transport this arsenic through the water flow until the lowlands part of this area. And as I saw before, there are some different behavior. It seems that the longest river also receive groundwater discharge in the river, and this groundwater is as we see that groundwater has high concentration of arsenic, so that's why arsenic increase the concentration in the river as well. The other river, yes, it tends to go to decrease the concentration of arsenic, but we think that is because some arsenic have adsorbed in some kind of mineral phases.
Okay, we have another question from Prosun. He's asking, can we link any control of the geotectonics of Bolivian Altiplano with respect to the plains in Santa Cruz de la Sierra?
Hi, Prosum. I feel happy you are here. Prosum was my supervisor in my thesis, in my PhD thesis. And yes, okay. We don't have much studies in the plains of Santa Cruz or in the plains of the Amazon area related with arsenic. But we found in some areas of Santa Cruz high concentrations of fluoride, and in few wells we found high concentration of arsenic. So we really need to understand better this, collecting more samples, more groundwater samples in this area, in the Amazon area, and then we can try to relate the geological origins in the Altiplano and in the Amazon areas. We still need to do more research.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
I had one question, can I speak now, Jessica? Just to continue, I mean, what is the current drinking water status? Because I have to give a lecture on this drinking water quality and in a few hours from now. So one question was, how is this the what's it called drinking water safety monitoring is going on in such plains where there is a potential risk of arsenic and fluoride, which is coming from upstream in the Altiplano down to the valleys of Sanjay. So is this a priority concern for the governments or the provincial governments?
Yes. This is it's different the way they work in the Altiplano and the way they work in the Amazon. We found that in province called the name of this province is San Pedro. The local government they help people to find safe water. So the local government is involved in the quality of the water, but not in solve the problem, because they need some money for solve the problem. But they are monitoring the wells, and this is very, very interesting because they monitor from at least 5 years because they put a laboratory, technical technical professionals to monitor this, and then they found this problem related to arsenic and fluoride, and now they are looking for solve the problem. So they work in this way. Different is in the Altiplano. The area is very, very poor, so people don't have
adequate resources, financial resources.
They don't have the sources for solve the problem. The first option they have is to find fresh water for drinking, and then they will try to solve the problem. That's why we put this treatment plant in Quillacas, but we use funds from international agency to help this with these people. So there are different ways to.
But do you know what are the depths of these aquifers from where they are actually abstracting water for drinking in the plains?
In Santa Cruz, they are deep wells. I think it's around 80 to 100 meters.
Okay.
So they are different, totally different.
They're totally different as compared to what we have been working in Altiplano in southern Poopó.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prasun.
Thank you, Prasun. Well, we don't have more questions in the chat, but I have a question for you, Mauricio. You mentioned that you found arsenic, also fluorine and lithium. And did you also find boron in these waters?
Yes, yes, we find in drinking water wells, we find boron, but also we find boron in the rivers. I didn't put it here in these pictures, but it's important to note that lithium, boron, strontium, and some other trace elements are present in these areas. If we go more to the south, to the southern part, far from Poopó, is to the southern part is more, ¿cómo se dice? It's more dry. What's the word?
Arid.
Arid. It's more arid, and then more arid the area, then we find the concentration of these elements increase. That's why, for example, in Salar de Uyuni, we found high concentration of lithium, boron, and strontium, and some other elements which are from that origins.
Yes, I was asking the question because in Los Pozuelos, in the Argentinian Puna, we also have this combination of high arsenic, lithium, and boron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica.
We have a new question again for Caroline Meyer. If she's asking, are these trace elements originating from the thermal springs?
I think the origin of these trace elements, lithium, boron, are more related to the volcanic rocks, the volcanic rock types. I saw some publication from the Geological GSH, Geological Survey of America. This publication found that lithium, boron, and arsenic, and strontium, and some other are present in this volcanic rock types. And of course, they are mobilized, and then with water, with the weathering, and then they go through the river flows to the lowlands, and at the end, these are sink of these trace elements, which with the time, long time there, increase the concentration in the lowlands.
But Mauricio, there is some discussions on this high lithium in the Chilean region where IAS is working, for example, on geothermal waters with high lithium concentrations. And that is also linked with this geothermal waters, isn't it?
Yes.
Partly. So is there a mixing of both?
I know that the arsenic in thermal waters in the Chilean side, arsenic is very high compared with this
compared to here, yes.
Thermal waters in Poopó. So they are different because the thermal waters we collect in this area is in the eastern cordillera, but we know that in the western cordillera, arsenic concentration in thermal springs is very high compared with the eastern with western cordillera. Jocelyn, maybe you can tell us something about the arsenic in these thermal springs.
In Chile, in like the current thermalism is related to high arsenic concentrations, and the origin of lithium is more complex because it's you find it in these basins, in salt flats. It's accumulating in the salt flats, but there are different not opinions, different hypotheses about the origin of lithium. One is it comes from thermal water other is weathering of the volcanics in the area. I think it's a mixed origin, but the only thing we know, it's very accumulated in the basins, and it's now it's like a natural resource that's being explored, and it's being exploited in northern Chile. Yeah, but I didn't know that thing you said about the hot springs in the eastern Cordillera, that they had lower arsenic concentrations. I imagine it's because now the active volcanics are located in the western Cordillera, western Andes range. So we think this is related to this thick crust and the leaks, like the how do you say, not leaks, like lixiviation, how do you call lixiviation in
Weathering.
English? Not weathering, is
More like
yeah, well, we can say the leaching.
Leaching, yeah,
yeah.
leaching.
The leaching of this thick crust that has, in general, continental crust has more arsenic in these limestones or different kinds of sedimentary rocks, and that's why we think that in this area you find more like the hot springs have more arsenic than in areas without volcanic, like active volcanism. But it's very complex in general. It's not easy. It depends also if you have structures, if you don't have geological structures, or if there are some areas where arsenic can accumulate or not. It's complex.
But Mauricio, in our region, when we studied the hot springs where we collected samples, so they were having higher concentration or lower concentrations?
Lower concentrations.
They were lower.
Compared with groundwater, it was very low.
It was low. Yes, that was in the thermal papers. Some is. Yeah.
I have another question in the chat. This question is from Juan Pablo Zamora Gomez from Argentina. He is working very close to the Puna region. And excellent presentation. Congrats, Mauricio. I have a question. Who are the water authority responsible for water quality monitoring in Altiplano region? Is it a national or subnational authority?
Okay, the national authority is the environmental ministry, but they have control. They have control on the what's the name? The EPSAs means the Empresas Públicas para Agua Potable. So it means like I don't know how to translate.
National companies for water resources or something like that.
So this deliver safe water to the people, but this is mostly in the urban centers, and that's not the same thing in the rural areas, because in the rural areas we don't we have the laws, but we don't have who control the quality of and the monitoring of the drinking water. So in urban areas, it's more easy to have these companies and this control, but in rural areas, no, it's not possible to do that. Anyway, we have these areas have the authorities of water or environmental authorities, but not much can be done with them.
Okay, I have another question. This is if you have seen while you were taking the samples in the wells with the higher concentration, like the clinical symptoms of arsenicosis in the population.
No, we tried to while we were taking the samples, we usually talk with people with responsible of the wells or some families, some authorities, and we try to see if they have these characteristic symptoms like the in the hands or in the skin. But we didn't saw these symptoms. So that's why we believe that people, and that's next presentation of health related to arsenic from Noemi. So we think that people are adapted to that condition of water. So they don't show these symptoms.
Thank you, Mauricio.
Okay.
Thank you, Mauricio. I think that.
Yes, thank you all of you for attending this webinar. I think we have 1 hour of presentation and questions, and I feel very, very happy to have all of you here, people from America, Latin America, and also people from Europe and other parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Muchas gracias.
Thanks.
Gracias, Cruz.
We will have the next presentation by Noemi Tirado, and the talk will be on 16 October. Her talk will be about arsenic exposure, elimination metabolism, and genotoxicity among women in Bolivia. So we invite you for the next webinar. And thank you very much for supporting this this idea and for the very good questions that you asked today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gracias.
Yes, I would like to say also that please follow our social network, and we have a new YouTube channel. If you can subscribe, we really appreciate that. And that's it.
Okay, well, so maybe we, Mauricio, Jocelyn, and Noemi, we can stay a little. And
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mauricio, can you get back to me later after you finished from here?